You click on the link. We got so many people to click on it. They were like, wow, we had however many it was, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people that like clicked and went to the website. They said, but we didn't really get much conversion. Like people didn't buy things. And when we looked at it, even one of my own employees, he goes, that's so funny that they say that, because after I watched the video, I went and clicked on the link and I went through, and after going through 6 different screens, I still wasn't in a place that I could actually like buy this thing. And it was such a hard checkout process that my brain was bored. And I'm like, maybe I don't need this. And I bailed.
So it's interesting, we were talking about earlier, for majority of creators, they're making more money from brand deals than anywhere else. It's interesting, you still have a lot of brands that are doing it for the first time, but I would say right now it is pretty mainstream. But what is lacking is the ability on the brand side to be able to model success and to be able to, after figuring out attribution, to be able to model out, okay, this is how we can be this successful, or this is, the ROAS or the ROI that we're going to be getting by spending this amount on this group of creators. And so scale is very lacking when it comes to brands being able to not just work with a dozen, but to eventually justify to work with hundreds or even thousands. What are some things brands can do differently to be much stronger when it comes down to looking at the data and modeling out success with working with creators?
One thing that I love, and not to market for you guys or whatever, but I love that you pull up the data and you're helping. You guys have a lot of tools on the back end that gives these brands the data afterward. And instead of saying we're just going to work with one creator, you're working with 30 creators, and you're picking different demographics of audiences, like totally different genres of YouTube creators or influencers. And then you can provide that data back. It's funny because like I really do like it when they do have a link that's like trackable of how many sales. We hardly get reported back as a creator, like how many sales some of the companies do. I like to hear it, but sometimes I'm like, I wonder if they don't want to share it because they sold so much. But
they don't want to have to spend more next time.
Yeah. But I do love that side of it where there is some sort of tracking mechanism in place. And for my meeting with I know that I've gone with Google a few times and met with like the food companies, the chief marketing officers. We went to Chicago one time and I spoke in this room, and a lot of their hesitations are, it is still a little bit old school on the higher levels of some of these big companies, to where it is the traditional sense. Maybe they don't understand what this influencer marketing looks like. So maybe they'll put a sliver of their budget there, but they'd rather have it in TV commercials or some of these areas that I feel like sometimes maybe they don't want it as trackable, because they don't want them to say that they failed with some campaign when all the data is here and is trackable, versus you go throw a TV commercial out and you're able to say, oh, look at this. Look how well we did. We just got LeBron James to show our GMC Hummer in an ad. Wow, we killed it. We did. Pat on the back. Good job. Well, today it's so trackable. You can see the views, you can see the engagement. And if you do it right, you should be able to track some of the actual clicks or the increase in lift in sales. And hopefully over time, we're already starting to see it. People are moving more of their budgets to that. But it's still, in my opinion, obviously I'm a creator, but I feel like it's still too small of a percentage versus what they're doing with their traditional spend right now. We did a video with LG. We've done a bunch of stuff with LG, and they gave us a vacuum to do a YouTube video on. It was like a stand-up stick vacuum, and it had this little box where you connect it in and all the junk goes out. It just automatically, as it's sitting there on its stand, it sucks out all the stuff. And part of the deal was to make a TikTok for it. And I made the YouTube video. It was great. I thought it was great. It was okay. It was a good video. It was like showing the vacuum. But then I'm like, oh, I have to do this TikTok. And I wasn't very excited about it. Sometimes I'm like, oh, TikTok. I'm too old for TikTok. But I went and I made it. And I'm like, how do I make this easy? I'm like, okay, 5 reasons why this is the best stick vacuum. That's easy, consumable, can do it in less than a minute. And I showed the 5 features. And then we just posted that on TikTok. And I'm like, okay, done with that part of it. That thing took off. It got millions of views, thousands of shares, that people are like, we have to get this vacuum for our house. I literally had my neighbors calling me. Like, I was just about to buy this company's vacuum, and instead should I get this one? And so I'm like, well, let me tell you my opinion on it. And so based off of that, we got some more deals with them. And that video just popped again recently. And so we've been talking to LG a little bit about stuff, but it's interesting to see on some of those metrics, there's no tracking link. There's nothing. But when we went to New Jersey a few months later, they told us that they were all sold out in America. And this was on Black Friday this last November. They're like, we allocated 36 of them for this live stream that because I did a live stream on their channel. Like we only have 36 because they're all sold out, and it wasn't all us, but we were a portion of that, and they recognized that. And so it is nice when brands can recognize like the influence, and not everything hits. My YouTube video did terrible, and I thought I was going to do great. The TikTok, I'm like, it's a TikTok, throw it on there. And it did really well. And now over the last like few months, I've seen more of the power of short form content. And we've been making more short form content, either for brands or for ourselves. On YouTube, we don't make money off of the short form content on the shorts. But like I posted one within the last month and we have 7 million views on it. And we've gained 25,000 new subscribers off of one YouTube short that's like 45 seconds long. And then when I publish my actual YouTube videos, we're getting more people to watch it and we make more money off of that. So anyway, it's a game. Well, I don't want to say game, but like it's an interesting thing to like look at the data. How do I get to my goal of getting people to watch my videos that I love, working within the constraints of whatever's important on the algorithm at that time. So anyway, that was way longer answer.
So many gems there. Thank you so much. And look, we liked on this podcast to go as deep as possible. It's not going to get us millions of views because it's very niche, but this is why I do it. It's an excuse for me to really data gather and make sure that I'm learning everything I need to learn. And it's interesting. You mentioned that there are some brands that take data very seriously and they share the data that they have with you, et cetera. But I think the number one problem right now is where brands are having a hard time being very data driven in this space is that there's a couple of things. One, herding cats is extremely difficult. Think about it. When you used to do a TV buy, or even when you do like a Facebook buy, it's very turnkey. You know what you're getting. You give a piece of content and there's not as much effort as there is in collaborating and coordinating with a variety, many of which, not you, but many of which are egocentric and difficult to work with. Creators, they're artists, and they have every right to be because they've built their own little universe or a huge, media company. And so working with a variety of different individuals can be very difficult to coordinate and to monitor. And so you have to not only have the relationships, you have to be looking at the data correctly, but you also, one thing that's extremely important is you gotta have the proper data-driven systems and processes to not only work with creators that's empowering to them, but in a way where you can work with a higher quantity and still have good quality control. And I think that is the one area where most advertisers and brands come short or fall short, is because it is complicated because you are literally working with a lot of different individuals that are very busy, that are making a lot of money in a lot of cases. And maybe there's a lot of high touch, communications that need to go into it. And brands are not set up for that. There's one time where a company, I was talking to a CMO of one of the top, CPG brands out there, and they said, "Hey, as we work with these creators, we're thinking of just, sticking our media team on this and having them, grow this." And my first question to them was, "Well, look, once you figure it out, what then? What happens?" So if you figured out how to get an ROI, work with creators, what are you going to do to set up a team to be able to work with dozens to hundreds and eventually thousands? Because there are brands that are doing it at scale where they're working with thousands and thousands of creators every year, and they're seeing, a strong return on advertising spend and an ROI. But it's really the ones that truly invest in being data driven, but also making sure that they have the right systems and processes in place to be able to work at that scale. And you're going to have technology that helps you with that.
100%.
One thing as well, I think that is missing that needs to be taken more seriously, that I believe there's been more investment around TV, but that's very difficult to really discuss how effective the attribution is, or being able to monitor the sales lift is. Right now, brands and advertisers, they need to invest in attribution. They need to make it a top priority. Not only, what does a view mean to them, but how do they get to actual transactions, whether it's retail, online, or in store. And it's possible to do. It just takes a lot of effort. And there's a lot of, I think, marketing teams that probably get a lot of pushback internally because it costs money to get to the point to be able to truly measure attribution. I think that's another thing that's kind of slowing things down for brands to take it to the next level, because there's $700 billion a year being spent a year on media. And creators are definitely the hottest form of media right now. It's the largest amount of inventory that exists. It's just much harder to navigate with the lack of, data-driven systems of processes and, technology infrastructure to do it. And so there's a lot of investing and inventing that needs to happen from each perspective of every brand.
That's great. I mean, you're the expert on this, and I love that. That is really good insights. And that is, I mean, it's hard to add to that because it's true. I mean, we've gotten better. We've gotten better. And thanks to companies like you that like come in and actually create these systems on the back end. But even on a simple level for these companies, we had a toy company once that we worked with, and it was direct through them. And we put the link to their toy in the website in the description. And the problem was, you click on the link. We got so many people to click on it. They were like, wow, we had however many it was, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people that like clicked and went to the website. They said, but we didn't really get much conversion. Like people didn't buy things. And when we looked at it, even one of my own employees, he goes, that's so funny that they say that, because after I watched the video, I went and clicked on the link and I went through, and after going through 6 different screens, I still wasn't in a place that I could actually like buy this thing. And it was such a hard checkout process that my brain was bored. And I'm like, maybe I don't need this. And I bailed. And so it was really interesting that I mean, he's the case study of one, but I think a lot of people went through that. Maybe you've got this link, you've got this good product. We just sold the heck out of it and I got these people to your website. And then it turns out your website sucks and nobody can navigate it properly to even buy the thing. And the transaction's hard. So there's
UI and UX are so important.
Yeah.
And I would, I believe it's 80% of the conversion. I mean, if you can't, learn about the product and then go immediately and have a transaction and purchase that product because it's too complicated, because you can't navigate the website, there's going to be a huge amount of drop off. And I bet if we were to look into the analytics from the brand's perspective in that specific case, the fact that you had that many clicks and it was an anomalous amount of clicks, there should have been conversions as a result of that, unless something completely turned them off into the website, or it was just too difficult to invest more time into actually buying the product.
Right. And when I see things like Twitch and YouTube Super Chat and things, people are willing to just drop money just with a push of a button. Or you watched, I know you're one of your previous guests, you just barely had Mr. Beast on. When he sells merch, he makes it super easy to buy the merch. He's like, they're signing it for days. You just push a button and you buy it. And so I know that's a small part of it. Like I think influencers can sell stuff, but gosh, brands, please make it easy to actually purchase your product so that it's like purchased and we can go back to watching our videos. That's like the mind of a lot of these viewers. They want to be entertained. They got convinced to buy something. Let them just buy it and get back to their viewing, whatever it is. So
yeah, it's one of those areas where I think organizations are going to have to evolve on how they operate. There's a good chance there's a lot of silos between, let's say, the brand team, the product team, and the actual devs or the tech teams. And they're just not in sync, and they're not moving, fast enough, to really evolve their ability to drive sales. I mean, but that happens a lot. And, we actually have performance experts that are, very data driven. They're like data engineers, and they can be very helpful on brands understanding, like, look, we can get you hundreds of millions of views or even billions of views, but if you don't have the right and simple process to be able to buy the product, it's not going to work. It's maybe there's some cases where there's gonna be an anomaly and you're still gonna be able to sell out or sell a bunch of products, but you absolutely got to make it so when people come to your website that they trust you, but it's also very simple and clear of what you're supposed to accomplish or how to accomplish, to actually buy something.
So we've talked about my trends this year and things that I'm seeing like Facebook, YouTube. What are you seeing in the last few months on your side that are interesting, that are maybe different from the influencer side of things, what people are doing well or where opportunities are? Now I'm the interviewer here, but I'm curious to know your perspective, because you do work with so many creators and work so many brands and are seeing what's happening right now in 2022, like best practices or interesting insights.
Having a TikTok campaign that's focused around conversions is definitely an area that I think has a lot of opportunity. We're now starting to see with a lot of our clients that they're driving a lot of sales and engagements on TikTok. I'm really excited and bullish on the opportunity with live streaming. I talked about this a couple of different times, but there were two different creators in China that did live streaming that got over $1 billion in revenue. Actually, one specifically, Lipstick Brother, got $1.9 billion in revenue in 15 hours. I really think this next year there's going to be a lot more creators that are going to put in more time to figure out how they engage with their audiences, with live streaming, because there's a lot to do there. And I bet that would be an area that would be a huge opportunity with you and Lincoln and what's inside, because you are already talking about products in most of your content and you're cutting them open, et cetera. And so, but I think there's going to be a lot of things that are happening in the East that are going to be coming over here.